All right, here's what I don't understand. With the Neuralink, with Elon's Neuralink, where in the head do they insert the chip? That's what I want to know.
It's the back of the head. It's the
back
of the head. The
Wait,
back
no,
of the head.
back of the head, like upper back, like near the neck?
The top. Yeah. The crown of the head. Yeah.
The
Basically.
crown of the head?
That's what I understand.
Where do the cords go?
Well, theoretically, I guess they come out the back of your head and then they plug into something that sits on your back or gets plugged into a computer or something like that. All I know is that it looks like the damn Matrix is what it looks like to me. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up in a pile of goo and I'm going to have to unplug myself from this pile of goo.
That's it. We're in the Matrix.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 413. That's right, Friday, February 2nd, 2024. It is Groundhog's Day, you all, and my sister's birthday, but that's not related at all in some weird way. Anyway, as it always is, and with me is my pal, my colleague, and a guy who doesn't believe that Taylor Swift is a CIA deep state operative, Mr. Joe Polizzi.
Yeah, just when I think that the world makes any kind of sense at all, you get these conspiracy theories with Ms. Swift.
Here's the thing that I struggle with, which is, look, I don't know how, if I was on that side of the fence, how do they keep up with all of it? Like, there's so much. There's so very much, and I'm literally just talking from a true, practical, tactical sense. How do you
There's so much.
Do they have a list? Do you have a list? Do you have like a reminder in your notebook? Like, oh right, they're deep state, right? We don't like them, right? Is there I just don't know how they keep up with it all.
I don't know if this is written down. Like, it's not on like Moses tablets or anything. Like, is
there like a website you can go to and go who's on the naughty list and who's on the good list, right? Because
I would like that just from the 10 conspiracies. Here's the main ones, because I'm assuming after a while there's some that just go away because they're so ridiculous. But I don't know. Whatever it is. The last thing that I heard was that, I don't know if it's before the game or after the game, when the Chiefs are crowned Super Bowl champions, Travis Kelce will join with Taylor Swift and Joe Biden.
That's right.
Walk onto the middle of the field.
That's right.
And there's a coronation, and basically she'll give all her love to Joe Biden. That's right. That's the latest one. Is that something?
Yeah,
is that
I have seen that one. I have seen that one. I've also seen the one where they feel like the NFL is rigged, of course, and that they're going to make the Chiefs win so that basically Taylor can basically profess her love for Joe Biden, and will then basically do that on the Chiefs championship, right? So that basically the game is already, doesn't matter. The game is already lost for the 49ers.
Here's the thing about what I'm just football related off the conspiracy thing. With Kansas City winning, what I've been hearing from a lot of the so-called pundits out there is they're putting Mahomes now in the conversation with the greatest quarterbacks of all time, which maybe he is, but it just seems sudden. It just happened way too quickly. And to do what they're doing with 4 Super Bowls in the last 5 years and the whole thing. But I just have a hard like when they're saying, okay, better than Bradshaw, better than Marino, better than, Aikman, and like, maybe.
Yeah,
it just seems early.
It does, but I will say this, and I'm not a Mahomes fan, but I saw this statistic, which is he hasn't ever not played in an AFC championship game.
You mean every year that he's been a pro,
Correct.
he's been in the AFC championship game?
That is correct.
Or a Super Bowl. So
that is
obviously.
correct.
That's ridiculous.
Correct. I mean, it's insane.
Is it 6 years? 6, 7 years?
I believe this is his 6th season. Yeah.
That's nuts. Okay.
Yeah.
So so here's if they're already having that conversation and he goes on to, a regular 5-6 more years, most likely if he stays healthy, then maybe the GOAT.
We'll see.
Maybe.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think he started to, there was already some, look, he's got a great team surrounding him at the moment. And has for many, many years.
And the defense this year
stepped up, and Andy Reid is an amazing coach. And there's a lot working than just him, right? Because he definitely this year was, the cracks were shown to be in the perfect portrait that is his play. But
the fact that literally they didn't guard Travis Kelce in the first half.
No, yeah, I don't know what they were doing.
9 for 9. There was one that was questionable. That was that amazing catch that Kelce made. But seriously, if they just had double covered Kelce, I think the game would have been completely different. But whatever. What do I know?
There you go.
So
Did you get checked in with Elmo? Because I thought about you when I saw this. I saw this on Twitter. The Elmo check-in.
That's my one voice that I can do.
I know. I was,
but I'm not going to do it here.
Okay, all right.
Do you want me to do it?
No, it's completely up to you. I would never force.
I have it. It's right here. It's like ready to.
Okay. Are you going to check in on the mental health? You should check in on our audience.
Here. I'll hear.
How are you doing? Are you okay? I really care about you, Robert.
How's that?
Oh, that's so good.
It's not a Sean Connery by Robert Rose, but
no, it's so good. It's so good.
Well, obviously, mental health is a big. I like the whole thing. Well, by the way, I don't even know if people realize, but what Elmo came out on X and said,
basically, did a very sort of innocent, and it went viral, right? And it went, and basically the answer was no, we're not okay. The audience of X is
the world said no. My God,
we're not.
This is horrible.
We're not. We'll put the link in the show notes for sure. Yeah, but we are not okay. Yeah, definitely.
I do like the thing that says where Sesame Street came out then and just kept saying mental health is health. I do like that. I like because sometimes when you say mental health, people think that somebody's got a problem or whatever. It's like, no, we all need to work on that portion of our health, our physical health and our mental health. And I got to tell you, I'm concerned. I think that the screen issue, and we're going to talk about it later in this episode, but I think the screen issue is to tragic proportions and something needs to be done.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Maybe
well, here, let's get to it. Let's tell everybody what we're going to talk about today on our show, because we're going to get to a really interesting, good show. And yes, we will talk about that. We will open up with our big, I guess, newsiest of news items, which is, of course, the social media executives, including Zuckerberg and Linda Yaccarino. They all went and testified on Capitol Hill this week. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means for the policy of social media and whether it was political theater or not. Spoiler alert, it was. And then we will talk about YouTube and TikTok, two other, I guess, social media channels, but not really. Anyway, they're taking over the world. TikTok usage climbing, Google's YouTube. Google did their earnings report just this week, and YouTube is just absolutely crushing it. Then we'll talk about misinformation and deepfakes. They abound right now. The aforementioned Taylor Swift, of course, had some trouble with pictures that went around this week that were deepfakes. And then George Carlin, the comedian, actually was pilfered through his grave, and whether it was AI or human, we'll talk about that. Then we'll get to Rants and Raves, of course, and Joe will rant, I'm sure, on TikTok. Big spoiler alert there. And then talk about a new creator economy report that's out. And I will talk about the CMO position and whether or not it's completely outdated or not. So
I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rant, if you will. Not too big a rant, but
it depends. The answer is it depends.
no, it does not depend.
Oh, good.
It definitely
Okay.
doesn't
All right.
depend.
I don't want to
It
steal your thunder.
definitely doesn't depend. All right. Okay, let's get to it. There are any number of media outlets reporting on this, but we'll link to the NBC News, NBC, WNBC.
WNBC.
We'll link to their reporting of this, and the headline along with the video, which is just classic to watch all these guys walk in to the chambers. Executives from Meta, TikTok, X, Snap, and Discord face tough questioning about their efforts to combat online sexual abuse. Members of the Senate Judiciary Committee said the companies haven't done enough to keep children safe, with Chairman Dick Durbin saying online child sexual exploitation is a crisis in America. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg apologized to parents in a very dramatic theatrical bit of a moment. And basically there was a number of questions that went on around what's going on here. Zuckerberg actually had a suit on, which was fascinating to me. What did you watch any of this? Did you see what was going on?
Yeah,
here?
I watched the one that we'll link to in the show notes. Is it the NBC? Yeah, NBC News one. And first of all, the Zuckerberg in a suit is a little cringy, but it was really
it was the greatest. It was the greatest post on Reddit. Somebody said so because he was sweating, you could tell he was hot. He was like he was a little moist on his face. Somebody on Reddit posted, "There's coolant leaking from the robot."
Oh my God! But honestly, not a. That's a tough move. He had to get up in front of those parents who lost children, and
he knew he was going to do that. He absolutely knew.
And I know, and that was the only thing that he could. Anything else would have been not the right thing. But wait,
of course. Well, look, he was clearly, all of them, by the way, were clearly coached by their PR teams to answer the question. Just, they all learned from they've learned from the past, because all of them have been there before, of course, but they also learned from the recent, the hearings with the college presidents and the challenges that they had by not answer. They were told, answer the question, just answer the question. Don't say any more. Don't say anything. Just answer the question. Right. Just do whatever it is they tell you to do. Just do it. Sort of malicious compliance, right? Just do it.
Have you ever been in a deposition before? Have you ever
I have, actually. Yeah, like an informal one, not in a courtroom, but
did I share with you my story when I was getting deposed one time? It was a. Do you know this story?
No, I don't know this.
Real quick, because it's somewhat relevant.
Yeah.
So I go in, and I won't share the details because I don't want to get into that. But I was being deposed, and my lawyer said exactly what you just said. They're going to ask you questions. Just answer the questions. No more.
That's right.
That's it.
Yep.
And I was asked questions. So it started, and I'm sitting at the table, and I'm answering, and I say yes, and then I start going into detail.
Right.
And that happened. The second question, my lawyer said, "Stop. We need a break." Takes me outside the room, jacks me up against the wall. I'm not kidding you. Very strong man.
It's like a scene out of Suits.
Exactly. Well, says, "What the F are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm answering the question." "No, you're not." It's like, "You are just talking out of your ass." And it's like, if they ask you a yes or no question, you answer yes or no. You don't then go on and elaborate. Now, then I went back in, scared to death that I was going to say something wrong. But that's when I learned, I get it. Don't do anything more than what's asked. If they want to get that information, they're going to have to ask for it.
That's right. And and here's the thing, they will. The whole point of it, and it's hard to do. It's harder than you think it is to do in the moment, because the way that skilled lawyers will ask you a question is so that it makes you think, did they not just hear me? Did they not just did they not understand what I'm saying? You can even see
understand the words that are coming out of my mouth.
Right. So you want to add clarifying context, right? So that it's like, because as humans, we want them to understand. We want them to understand our point of view, and answering yes or no is usually going to, you can, in your brain, you sort of feel like, oh, they're going to think that I did, something wrong, or I did something wrong if I say yes. It's like, no. You just answer the question. And you can even see that when I forget his name, the guy from TikTok, actually in the hearings, is getting questioned, and Senator Hawley is like, were you a part of the Communist Party? And the guy's like, you can see him literally taken aback, like,
Yeah.
you know this, you know the answer to this. The answer, of course, is no. And he's like, and he sort of, but what he doesn't realize is that response is not the response. He should just say, no, of course not.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, these social media outlets who for years have been lax with their guidelines around the activity of children on their social media platforms, this is just one area that is sort of coming home to roost. It's horrible about what's going on with some of the relationships that the younger kids get into because of this and the targeting. But something, I think, has to, and here's my concern. Nothing's going to happen, but something, like, there has to be more stringent laws on the activity of children on these social media platforms.
Yeah.
But there's not. There's not.
I don't disagree at all. But I would say this, so shame on Congress, by the way, for not legislating this, right? I mean, it's one thing to sort of
anything.
It's one thing to take the tech companies to task, and of course we should take the tech companies to task here, because they have leaned hard and heavy into their sort of platform status rather than publisher status, and all the way since the whatever it was when that law passed in early 2000s or late 90s, I forget.
Long time ago.
Basically giving them, carte blanche as it pertains to that. But basically nothing's been legislated since. And so, yes, they've took advantage, but no, I would say. And then there was another interesting article that I read, which I think is actually the right solution, because for them to say that they can't legislate, they can't manage it now, like, their whole, basically, there's just no way for us to technologically put in filters. Of course, that's wrong. They could do it, but the cost would be so high. However, I think the easiest and best answer that I've seen is that it should be on Apple and Google. Basically, that age appropriate restrictions should be placed. It should be at the hardware level. In other words, a parent can set up a phone so that nothing is available to them and as somebody suggested, that one of the CEOs from one of the companies suggested that, and I thought that was a really good idea, actually.
Whatever. I mean, that sounds very reasonable and something that's possible and something you could do with those two companies, which are basically the gateway.
Right.
But I think it comes down, and it also comes down to the fact that we talked about this many times. We need a better process for verification. Like, in anyone out there can get a social media account on any of these platforms that we're talking in front of Congress very easily and you don't need a driver's license, or you don't need any form of identification. You don't need.
Yeah, I mean, identification, verification. Yeah,
that has to happen so that all these things can work together. Because if you set a gateway on the Apple and Google side, you still have to have that connection point where they know exactly how old this person is, more than just the parents. Because, like, you could make the case, these parents, they should, they got to, if a kid has a phone or a device in their hand, they'll get around all that stuff.
Yeah,
they will. You can't watch them 100% of the time.
Yeah. Can you imagine how much different, I won't even say less or more, just different, the experience on X or the experience on, really, if identification was required, verified identification was required. In other words, so if you were going to be a troll somewhere, you have to identify yourself. You have to, it just seems like, I mean, it would be interesting to see what would actually happen.
I think ultimately that's going to happen, because I think there's going to be so much wrong that goes on in the next 5 years that it's going to be forced upon us as a pure safety measure. We're going to have to do that. Not just because we think it's a good thing for content creators or content marketers to do. I think just humanity will have to do that. I don't know if it starts with Congress, because this Congress has been the most inept Congress that we've ever seen.
For sure. Yeah.
So
there's no doubt about that.
I don't think I mean, to your point about whatever it's grandstanding or whatever, like, to make sure that they know that we listen to the people. I don't see any legislation coming out of this. I think it's not bad enough yet, but here we are still talking about climate change and global warming. And you'd think it'd be bad enough, but that hasn't happened either. So I don't know. I just hope something happens. But I think that there'll be a trigger. I think we're years away from that trigger, though. I don't think this is, sad to say, I don't think it's bad enough yet.
Really?
I don't. No.
Yeah.
There's not people. You got to get to that level where people are up in arms. People aren't. They're not. And that's why, again, with the whole climate issue, you have 30% that are up in arms.
Do you think so? Coming out of, because this was theater, right? This was all this was clearly theater, right? This was just yet another, sort of trot everybody out and make some political points or whatever they were trying to score, and I don't even know what if there was a point, right? I mean, it wasn't like it's not like there's legislation cooking and they were trying to get sort of a take on what they should, the way
I think it was a check the box.
It felt very much like that. It felt very much like it was a slow news week and they felt like, they needed to do something.
Same thing for TikTok when they had that whole thing. That was a check the box. Oh, we're on this, but yet nothing's happened for a year.
Yeah. And by the way, the Linda Yaccarino's testimony, which was fascinating, talking about how X is this new platform that stands for truth, justice, and the American way. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like, I can't even believe she said it with a straight face, but that was crazy. But anyway, my question to you is, other than being a check the box from a marketing standpoint, from a business standpoint, how does this or where we sit now in 2024 with everything, how does that affect where our social media strategy goes, right? I mean, do we continue to sort of feed the beast, as it were, or is this, are we going to get to a tipping point where businesses are going to finally go, you know what, it's not worth it?
Well, I have to put this issue to the side for a second, just talk about social media strategy. I'm still of the belief that in many cases, businesses have an amazing opportunity. I'll throw out TikTok, even though I'm not active on TikTok. I know firsthand that, like, why
we are now. We are now.
We are. Yeah. I'm not like, that's so weird, right? Like, we have a TikTok channel, but I don't surf and look at anything.
Oh, I see. As a consumer, you're not
as a consumer. I'm not a consumer of TikTok. So but I know that I can name 15 examples of people who have purchased things directly because they saw something multiple times on TikTok.
Yeah. Or I raised my hand.
Or Instagram,
I'm right there with you.
Facebook, right? Whatever. The issue is, I just did a presentation on this. The issue is that most companies out there, they basically are boiling the ocean with their video strategy, with their small screen strategy. They're boiling the ocean. They're just putting crap out there. They don't have any thought about it, when they would be better off taking a step back and saying, let's focus on being great and making a behavioral impact on one channel. And this is what we're going to talk about. And this is our mission. And this is our audience. And this is what we want to see. And if you do that really well over a long period of time, I think you will be successful, as long as you know that tomorrow it might be gone. And that's with any social media platform that you don't have control over. Yeah. And you could say MySpace or Google Plus, or changes in the algorithm at YouTube, or getting kicked off the platform. Those things could happen at any moment. So that I still believe that is going to happen. I would just like to see, to our past conversation, that these laws be put in place, because this outside of the sexual predator issue, the addiction, they want the addiction to happen.
Of course.
It's part of Meta. Like, Meta is a great example, right? It's part of their business strategy to get them hooked as young as possible, so that they use Messenger and WhatsApp.
By the way, that's not in so many words, because they would, of course, object to our use of the word addicted. But in so many words, that is every media company's goal.
Sure.
If you run a magazine, they want you so addicted that you want every issue and you're a fan of every issue and you collect them and you put them into a little basket and stick them in the corner. And, if you're a television network, they want you so must see TV, right? That, you're addicted to that lineup. If you're a movie company, they want you addicted to the series. They want you. So it's not, the question isn't whether or, to me, it's a really interesting tension, because if you think about a media company, the entire focus of a media company is to build fans, build people who will take action and stay loyal to the content that you're creating over a long period of time.
Sure.
And when I was in TV, the strategy was all about cable networks, and it was about moving audiences from family network to family network to family network. What I mean by that is that our goal was to capture young people that came in through MTV, then matriculate them up through VH1, then have them have kids and they get into Nickelodeon, and then those Nickelodeon kids get into Nick at Night, and so on and so forth. And you just sort of keep everybody moving through that. The strategy is no different today. The question and the difference is in what's allowed, like what content is allowed. That's where I think the interesting tension is because what Facebook and TikTok and X and everything is able to get away with by being a platform and not a content network like we've been used to adjudicating for the last 50 years is they get away with a lot more egregious sort of self-harming things culturally that we would never allow on any other media network as a government. And so to me, that tension has always been really weird with brands to be sort of adjacent to that. And I just wonder if I think I agree with you, by the way. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it may not, it may get so bad that making it better doesn't make it better. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? It's like, it may get so bad that that social media is just where the icky stuff happens.
I don't think there's an answer. I think that it's funny you bring that up. Yeah, you're right. The goal is to build subscribers, fans, and followers, and always has. But I think the difference within the personal programming or the algorithm aspect that can take you down. Like if I wanted to go watch NBC, I'm going to watch, must see TV on Thursday night. I'm
sure.
There's the
we love the algorithm when it's
Netflix.
When it's Netflix recommending movies and TV shows, we love the algorithm. When the algorithm is recommending us to us, it gets really funky really fast.
Exactly. And that's why everybody has their own truth and all that. Yeah. I don't know if it's like AI where we open Pandora's box and there's no going back, other than the fact that I know some people that were spending 6, 7, 8 hours on screen time. And then all of a sudden they get to a point where they're losing their minds and they're losing control. And they're like, oh, I'm so addicted. I have to leave.
That's right.
I have to go cold turkey. You're seeing that more and more.
Yep.
So
I limit myself now. I don't look at TikTok all day, and then I look at it usually at night. Usually, I have a little session, if you will, pre-dinner where I just sort of look at dog videos and stuff. But it's
that's your so that's.
But I limit it. I limit it. It's instead of watching some rerun or the local news, in the evening as I'm making dinner or whatever, I'll do a little TikTok session or something like that. So that's it. Not during the workday. I can't do it during the workday. Otherwise, I will go down a rabbit hole and it will not be good.
Yeah.
It won't be good for anybody.
Here's what I've been starting to do in the morning. So basically, I wake up in the morning and instead of checking my phone or email or whatever, I just sit. For a second and I ask myself, what do I need to do today to be the best version of myself?
Oh,
today?
That's nice. That's real nice.
It's like a self-affirmation thing, right?
That's so nice.
Thank you. Yeah. But that goes to don't look immediately at your email. Don't open Facebook. Like don't do all these.
Don't look at the news. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't go.
No external manipulation. Yeah.
Exactly. And and then I say, okay, well, what makes sense? I think that now is a really good reading time or writing time or those types of things that whatever. I don't know if it's right, but it feels like it's the right thing for me.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of being our best selves and being our wonderful selves, we should probably just we should probably pay homage, if you will, to a couple of the people who pay our bills.
I think so.
Alley-oops don't happen without team chemistry, and your leads go nowhere if you aren't on the same page with sales. Yeah, I get it. And HubSpot, they get it too. That's why they created Sales Hub. It's an all-in-one platform built with all the tools you need for your team's success. Smarter prospecting? Check. Faster revenue? Yep. Scales with you? Yeah, it sure does. You ready to help your sales team reach an all-star selling status? Head to HubSpot.com/sales to try Sales Hub for free. Want a new podcast for your 2024 listening? Well, we can make that happen. In fact, why don't you try Make It Happen Monday, hosted by John Barrows. It's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. Make It Happen Monday offers actionable sales tips to close more business and interviews industry leaders. Host John Barrows includes his insight as a leading B2B sales trainer and founder of J. Barrows Consulting. One recent episode I loved featured Jason Tan, a B2B expert in AI and the founder of Engage AI. Check it out. Make It Happen Monday, wherever you get your favorite pods.
You know, I forgot to tell you, I love the new opening, the new music.
Oh, thank you. I
don't know if anybody noticed that, but we have a new opening.
I'm sure they noticed.
Song.
I'm sure they noticed. Yeah.
They probably noticed the fact that it wasn't the first thing.
That's right. That's right.
We're changing it up a little bit.
We're mixing things up, and actually, our next story will tell us why. But yeah, it was fun. You know what? And I don't know if anybody knows this or anybody cares, but that's my music. Has been since we started the podcast.
We mentioned it, but we didn't
want to pay. We didn't want to pay basically for any sort of stock music. So why not just use one of mine? And the funny thing is that the music is, it's a 3-minute song, and we always play the first 30 seconds of it, right? And which is lovely, but it was never meant to be a theme song for a podcast. It was just written to be this thing, and ultimately the end of the song gets to be this sort of rock and roll calamitous thing that I loved more than the beginning. I actually loved the end of it more. And so it was really fun, I have to say, to get in there and do a little remix of it. By the way, huge a shout out, and this is not I'm not getting paid to do this or anything, but there's an AI tool, and I'll look it up here in just a second because I'm blanking on the name of it as we speak, that I could upload my MP3, which I made 12 years ago, and it broke apart all the stems, so in music terminology, stems are like the drum track, the guitar track, the bass track, and all of that. And it broke it apart into separate files for me so that I could do the remix that you hear basically. And it took literally 4 minutes to do that. Took longer than 4 minutes to put it all together into something that I really liked, but the technology now is just insane in terms of being able to pull music apart and do all of that. So yeah, big shout out to that tool and by the way, it didn't charge me. It was free. It was a free tool.
So it took you 4 minutes.
Yeah.
In the past, without a tool like that, how long would it have taken you?
You couldn't do it.
You couldn't split it apart.
Yeah. There are some of the tools that will allow you to pull down. It would have been hours, days of work to pull a fully mixed tune apart, using even modern tools, right? Like Pro Tools or something like that. You can do it, but it's really difficult. And this tool, literally upload the song, and 30 seconds later, it was like, would you like to download them as waves or as MP3s? Or it's like, wow. It was.
So it had taken you days. You'd have had to go press the vinyl, get the label. You'd be out on the corner.
Get my Maxell 90 tape. Yeah. My Maxell 90 tape.
I watched. I was watching Straight Outta Compton, a little bit of that, which is the NWA story.
Yeah, right.
And it was funny when Ruthless got the deal. And they did the whole thing, and they were showing how the records were, being made from. I was like, oh my god, the good old days.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm so old.
There's a great scene in the Beatles documentary, the Jackson version of the I forget the title.
Peter Jackson version.
Peter Jackson version, yeah. Where they talk about where they had the tape stretched across the studio so that they could actually run it on a loop. And so that they could actually do a remix of it. So they had the tape like literally stretched out around chairs and around, the whole thing. And basically so that they could run that loop and do the editing as they needed to do it. It's fascinating.
The same thing if you watch the Bee Gees documentary, which is fantastic, by the way. They do the same thing. They do the same thing, I think, with Staying Alive. I forgot
drums. With the drums.
And because they had that going from like the sag from the reel to reel or something. They did, and I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Oh yeah.
By the way, the tool, the tool is called Fader, FADR. FADR.com is what I used. So, and again, I get nothing out of that. I just found it online, tried it, and it worked brilliantly. So just shout out to that.
It's a smart move. Like, why you don't need vowels. Vowels are unnecessary.
No, vowels are not cool. Vowels are not cool.
Could you probably do FDR, and you could probably do fader from that. You don't. The A is unnecessary. They got rid of the E, but not the A. What's up with that? Okay, what's next?
That's called domain name event. Go. Yes. They got a domain, and they're really happy about that.
Yes, exactly. All right.
Yes, let's look at our next story here very quickly. Here we're going to talk about more YouTube and TikTok video channels. Now, there's a couple of different stories that we'll link to here and pair together because they do pair very nicely with a nice Pinot. And the first one will be Google and their results from the last quarter. And this comes to us courtesy of Marketing Dive. YouTube revenue tops $9 billion in signed ad spending that are recovering. Additions like NFL Sunday Ticket are drawing more advertisers to YouTube, while search got a boost from retail and the critical holiday period. Google's YouTube ad revenue grew 15% year over year, which would make any other media company sort of just drool. $9.2 billion. It's amazing. A sign that appetites for premium formats like video are on the rebound. The company's overall ad revenue for the period hit $65.5 billion, an 11% year over year increase. Search and other, Google's largest segment, was up 12%. The tech giant continues to work on implementing a search generative experience, SGE, powered by artificial intelligence. That's not what we're really talking about here. But the other area highlighted by the executives was subscriptions, which drew $15 billion in revenue. YouTube has seen a pillar of Google's subscription strategy with new additions, including NFL Sunday Ticket. And I will raise my hand there because I am a subscriber of it. What say you, Mr. Man, with regard to, YouTube feels now like a true alternative, full stop, like to what television is in today.
Sort of eating, the no moat cable industry is being eaten alive by
I will YouTube, tell you,
right?
Yeah, I will tell you, as a user of, I'm a YouTube Premium subscriber as well as a YouTube TV subscriber, and I did the latter because of the NFL Sunday Ticket, because I'm crazy that way. It's really good. It's really, really good. I can sit at my desk and watch local TV on YouTube TV and just literally have a little browser window open in my, one of my monitors and just sort of watch. Yeah. I can watch local news. I can watch if there's a football game on the broadcast networks. I don't have to go into my living room to watch that. It's really good.
Well, we have Hulu, and which is great too. Like I think that they're even improving their interface. Everything's great. Here's where I think I almost feel like I was wrong 20 years ago. I mean, when you and I started to get out there and preach about content marketing, I always used to say that that the advertising industry was like the sun and content marketing was like Pluto. It's too small to even be a planet. Like that was the budgetary difference. And I always believed, because of the fact that we want to target, we could and we want to target audience. We target audiences. We wanted addressable audiences.
Yep.
That we had the capabilities to create tell better stories, that I thought that would change, and we would grow from Pluto into something like, Venus, or maybe get closer to the sun. I think it's getting worse. I think that there's more money being put into ads, and what's happened recently that we can see it right in front of us. Netflix has had success with their ad-supported model, and now you have Amazon that now they're going to charge $2.99, or if you want the ad-free for their video, for Prime Video, then you can pay the $2.99, or you got to watch the ads, right?
Yeah.
I think this is very surprising that we didn't see it coming, and ads are alive and well. And I think that we've found it. Like, if you look at Reels, or you look at Facebook, or I would imagine it's the same on TikTok, everyone will sit there, and if they want the content, they will sit through those ads.
Yeah.
And they're happy to do so. I did not see that coming. I thought that people would say, no, I don't want ads anymore. I want to subscribe directly to this person, and I don't want that ad experience. And I was completely wrong.
Well, I think I think there's it's a little bit of a dovetail for what we were just talking about, which is, I think this thing that surprises me the most is the young people, younger generation. I would have been like, it ain't going to be YouTube. It might be TikTok. It might be something else, but it's not going to be YouTube. YouTube feels very Facebooky in that way, right? And as it turns out, no, the younger generation is latching onto YouTube very, very, very much as a source of everything: entertainment, information, engagement,
Podcasting.
Podcasting.
Yeah.
It's where so much of the attention is going. And it's really, and we'll talk about this in just a second, because the other story that we have linked to pair with this is the TikTok usage continues to just rise and rise and rise, much to the dismay, I'm sure, of
maybe
a lot
we
of people.
should talk about that quickly.
Yeah, well, okay. So basically the news item which comes to us, and this is the other side of marketing, right? Marketing brew. TikTok usage continues to climb among U.S. adults. And basically the article opens up by saying U.S. adults are all over the place in terms of social media usage, fragmented based on age, gender, race, and class across platforms, according to a new survey from Pew Research Center. But one thing everybody seems to agree on is TikTok. One third of respondents, which was conducted among 5,733 adults between May and September of last year, reported having used TikTok, up from 21% in 2021. I mean, it's
probably much larger by now. Yeah.
It's almost certainly higher now.
Like,
so other platforms have higher usage as well. More than 8 in 10 U.S. adults surveyed that they've used YouTube, followed closely by Facebook and Instagram. And so, it becomes from a consumption side of things, YouTube and TikTok are sort of it for everybody now. And it's an amazing thing. And, we've been joking about it, as we've sort of pivoted and changed the show, right? We've really moved, right? We've really moved and started to pivot much more toward being a YouTube show that is also a podcast, instead of a podcast that's also a YouTube show.
That's right. And I think that you and I were pushing against that for a long time. We're like, no, people get whatever. And then you realize this. It's like, and I'll give you a real example. We went to, I think I told you, we went to see Mrs. Doubtfire. The musical, which is really, really good. And during intermission, my wife and I are sitting there, and we have our other 4 friends, and we're all sitting there sort of talking, standing up, stretching our legs. You look out at everyone else. And when I say everyone, I'm not exaggerating. Everyone else has a screen in front of their face.
Yeah.
I thought I was in Wall-E or something like that. I'm like, what the heck is going on? This is where and it's growing. So whether it's TikTok or it's YouTube or it's Discord or Snap, whatever, we are looking at a screen, and it's very hard to put that screen down, even to talk with a human being on a regular basis. So I know I'm like the old guy that's get off my lawn right now, but I'm concerned about it. It frustrates me.
And what is the part that frustrates you? Is it from a parent perspective? Is it from a user perspective, or is it from a marketing perspective?
So I'll talk as a parent. Yes, I'm very concerned. It's very, my children are all but grown up. You say a parent, but 22 and 20. But yes, it bothers me at how easy it is to not have a conversation, something, and just look it up, or when we're all together is to take that device out and not have the conversation. But as just a regular adult, a regular human being, when you are in an atmosphere where generally it's a social atmosphere where there are people around you, friends and family, where you would in the past have had conversations, those conversations are now replaced with a device. They're not happening.
Sure.
That's now. This has not been going on very long. It's very, very quick. If you look at the timeline of media over hundreds and hundreds of years, this is just a blip in how quickly that behavior change happened. So almost like, you can make the comparison. You've done it before where there was no TV and then there was TV, right?
Right. That's
right. Then when people were getting television, you're like, wow, did that, people were staying at home at 6 o'clock to all watch the news.
Yep.
Or Jackie Gleason or whatever the case was. So, and pull that.
Now
Berle.
You really are dating
Milton
yourself.
Berle.
Yeah. There you go.
So I know my television history, but it's concerning. So if you go back to the whole marketing thing, so this is this old marketing. Let's talk about the marketing aspect. I could fight against this all I want, but it's not going to work because we know that we had to change this podcast to go video and small screen first.
Yeah.
Because that's where our audience is.
It's where the media consumption is. Yeah, exactly right.
So now there's not opportunities in audio and podcasting or even print or events, but this is a different thing.
That's the thing. It's like, one of the things I used to always talk to marketers about, and it was one of the things that I always sort of had a distaste in my mouth about, sort of the whole omni-channel thing, and you and I both will evangelize this idea of, one platform, one audience, all that sort of thing. And when we would look at, there would be the advice that would come up from, and I won't name the people who would, you've seen it before at every marketing conference, the person that would go up and go, you gotta go follow the audience. You got to be on every channel where your audience is, because that's where they are and you got to be there. Right. Mm-hmm. This whole omni-channel thing. That, of course, that's impossible for anybody. I don't care how big you are. It doesn't matter. It's impossible. And the key is that if you looked at all of the real successes, right? If you look at the success, and I mean brands and creators alike, what they were able to do was to bring the moth to the flame. In other words, I used to use the example I used to use all the time was the craft example, which is when this was really, this was, so it dates a little bit, but it's not a lot, where I said, look, they didn't start out by going, ooh, let's be everywhere our audience is, and then hopefully our website will take off, or hopefully our print magazine will take off, right? It was they said, our center of gravity is going to be this website, this, online recipes database website. And we're going to be promoting that content on as many places as we can possibly be because of where media consumption is, but we can bring the audience there. And I think that's still true.
I do. I agree with that.
When I look at someone like a real success story over the last few years, like Jay Klaus, right, where he's in a lot of places, and he's on X, and he's on YouTube, and he's on the web, and he's on Facebook and YouTube and everywhere, but he's built a base, and now he's shifted that base over time as the media sort of centers and of gravity have changed. So it's not that he's static in time and will never change, but he basically is saying, I can use all of those platforms to flow my audience to where I want them to flow. And invariably that's going to be somewhere where we can address that audience. Right. So what I don't want is everybody to get the misimpression that, because we're sort of thinking of ourselves as a YouTube show that also has a podcast, that we're building our home on rented land, right? We understand what's going on there with YouTube, right? The idea here is that we're flowing those users to somewhere else.
Well, and the other thing too is, as much as we want to talk about podcast being not rented land, it is. It is.
Right.
Those
Of course.
distribution that they're it's controlled by Apple and Google, and they could shut off access at any point, and that's the scary. So that we have to have something else to do that. But if you look at a media model, any amazing media company, they started with that one base.
That's right.
The magazine, the newsletter, the blog, the podcast, whatever. And then they diversified from that. That's the issue where marketers generally they diversify immediately.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Before we get to Rants and Raves, we got to cover the deepfake stuff. So let's.
Oh, yes, of course. Absolutely. Okay. So we will get to that story, which is deepfakes, George Carlin, Taylor Swift. It's starting to happen, folks. This is Joe. Actually, one of his predictions was that this was going to be a big year for deepfakes. And so the first one that we'll cover here is from AP News. It's about George Carlin. And really quickly, because it's pretty straightforward, the estate of George Carlin is now suing a media company behind a fake hour-long comedy special that purportedly used AI to recreate the late stand-up comic style and material. The lawsuit filed in federal court in Los Angeles basically asked the judge of the podcast outlet Dudesy. I guess it's Dudesy. It's not Dudsy. Anyway,
I think it's Dudesy. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
It's ridiculous at its face. I mean, can you imagine being the judge? So the plaintiff Dudesy, anyway, to immediately take down the audio special, George Carlin, I'm Glad I'm Dead, which is a synthesis of Carlin delivered commentary on current events. Carlin died in 2008. There's other news stories, by the way, out there that are saying now that the people that are getting sued here have said, no, we it's human created, not AI created, but it doesn't matter. It was all
the voice is George Carlin's voice that they
which is just I mean, there's just no two ways about it.
Which, by the way, I'm sure you know this because I tried to view it and it's gone. Like,
of course, it's not. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't see it anymore. And then secondarily this week, also Taylor Swift made. I mean, it can't be. It's Tuesday if Taylor Swift is making headlines, but basically, there were some AI images of her in, well, let's just say, unclothed versions of AI generated images that went viral. And X was forced to change the image search on her because of these images that were out there. And now, because it's Taylor Swift in many regards, that people are freaking out that this is actually, possible. And it's been possible for some time, folks, and happening for some time, folks.
Yes.
It just didn't happen to Taylor Swift before. So what do you think about both these things very quickly? It's just, is this the beginning of the beginning, the beginning of the middle, or where are we at here?
Well, yeah, to your point, this has been going on for a long time. So this is nothing. And my prediction that it was going to go crazy this year is a layup. Everybody should be saying, especially with the election coming up, it's going to get crazy nuts.
It's going to get nuts in here.
It's going to
every show we have the Batman quote. Yes.
I don't think that companies like X have been putting enough in their infrastructure to battle against all of this craziness.
They killed off all their safety and people.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah,
it's what it's like. Here's what it is to me. So deepfakes right now is like identity theft. If somebody wants to steal your identity and they want to do it really badly, they will do it. It will absolutely. You can set up all the precautions. It will absolutely happen.
It's child's play to do it. Yeah,
yes, that's exactly what this is. Child's play now because the technology is there. It's going to happen at every moment. And we're getting our information from 4 or 5 major entities around the world. And I don't think these entities can keep up. That is why I'm going to find a nice plot of land in Wyoming. And I'm going to live there. Maybe overseas, but I like Wyoming for some reason. I hear it's nice.
It's too late. It's too late. There's too much of you out there. I'm just telling you, it's too late. There's too much of you out there. It's easy to, we could take all 413 of these episodes and stitch us together and make new This Old Marketings with relative ease.
So my mom doesn't listen to this, but I'm almost ready to tell her and say, Mom, you may get a call from someone that sounds like me.
Oh, we've already done that. My wife and I have already done this, by the way.
So you two have had the conversation.
We have had the conversation, and we have set up the secret code word.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, we have too, but I can never remember the code word.
Yeah. I did it.
So-
We've got a couple. We've got a couple that we can ask questions about that are immediately obvious to both of us that would not be obvious to anybody else but the two of us. And so because I did that after I agreed for CMI to do my voice for reading the blog post, my blog post
system. Yeah.
And when I heard it, I was like, this is okay. I can tell it's not me. And I played it for my wife, and she goes, and I didn't tell her when I played it for my wife. I played it for her, and she goes, "Is that you? Did you read that?" And I'm like, no, it wasn't me. It was it's AI. And she's like, wow. She could tell, I could tell, but I know for a fact that other people believe it's me.
If you heard, you've heard the Snoop Dogg one that's out there that everybody's using. I can't.
The Biden one that went viral, the deepfake call that happened this week.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, okay, back to what do we do about it? And I don't know what the answer is, but there's got to be some way to verify and say, okay, well, we have to have a checking system that if this video is not verified on this person's home, that they like. You have to have that check and balance. And the thing is that even being verified on these social media sites doesn't mean anything because you can fake that too.
Of course.
So
well, on one of them for sure you can. On one of them for sure you can fake it. It's harder on the others.
But you can do it. It's been done.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure it's been done. Yeah.
So what do we do? We're left with the fact that some other entity has to come up with a verification system so that if you see this video, okay, I have to check, or those social media outlets have to check a source.
Yeah. I like the other way. I like this, and I come back. We've talked about this on the show before. I like the opposite. And this is what Adobe is doing. Microsoft, I think, has signed on to this as well, where they take the opposite approach. They basically put a watermark or a certification on authentic content. In other words, if it doesn't have that watermark on it, you can't be sure.
But what if they stake the watermark?
Apparently you can't. Apparently you can't. Well, I don't know how that works.
Okay, so I've talked with,
because it shows the provenance. It shows the provenance of the video or the image, right? So in other words, with the watermark, it's not just a watermark in the image, but there is a badge that you can click on and you can see all of the versions of this particular image or this particular video that have ever existed. And so you can basically see the different versions of it. There's another one that's going around these days, which, and again, I know we're short on time, but the other one is have you heard of this? The AI poisoning, where
I did hear something about that. But I don't know the details.
Well, basically the concept is, and I'll make it short just because of time, but the concept is, if I make a picture with this tool that says I want a picture of a cow standing in a field, right?
Yeah.
The image comes back and it looks like a cow standing in a field, but to the AI that would look at the data of that image, it would look like, a purse in a mall, right? It would basically be completely different. So it doesn't match the what the description of the video is, or the description of the image.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it starts to poison the learning model, which basically says, if you start seeing images of, your search, it says, create an image of a cow standing in a field, you're going to start seeing purses in a mall, and then that it's been poisoned. So that's the idea behind it.
So what's real estate go for in Wyoming? Is
right? Exactly.
I'm serious, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's get to Rants and Raves very quickly here before we jump out of this episode. And so you want to go first here? You're talking about, again, TikTok and the creator economy. You want to jump in?
Yeah. There's the TikTok. This is a study that came out. I don't need to put it up on the screen. There's a study that came out about TikTok usage in kids aged 2 to 18, which was disturbing in and among itself, that it has raised to almost 2 hours a day, U.S. children spending on TikTok.
Wow.
I don't have any comment other than, wow, yeah. What the heck?
It's a lot.
That's just TikTok. That's not TikTok and YouTube and all the other things. That's just TikTok. I'm going to leave it at that. And you can all, look and on Zillow for property in Wyoming. The other one, I just want to throw a shout out to the folks at Kajabi. They came out with State of the Creators Report 24. And there was the one thing I like, I don't put it in the show notes, but the one thing I like about it in this report says 95% of creators making 6 figures have fewer than 1 million followers. Fine. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
25% have less than 10,000 followers. It's very similar to the report that we did at the Tilt last year that said, the average creator making a living has about 4,000 followers. The point is that you don't have to have a super large audience to be successful.
Kevin Kelly's 1,000 fans. Yep.
That's exactly right. And it's true. And I don't think we talk about it enough. We're talking about the Mr. Beasts of the world, I think, get all the attention and rightly so. They should.
Yeah.
But this is being a professional storyteller and building an audience is a noble profession depending on what kind of content, I guess, you're talking about. But there's a lot of value there, and there's future for people. To be financially independent that way. So I'll put the report in the show notes.
Fascinating.
And you, sir, what do you got?
I have 2 seemingly disparate news items that came out this week that to me are really interesting. And I don't know if it's a rant or a commentary, but basically, so LinkedIn just released a pretty interesting report on the 25 fastest growing jobs, basically in the U.S. This is a U.S.-based research. And it basically said what you might expect. AI is big. Of the 25, I think, 4 or 5 of them were AI related, although prompt engineer wasn't one of them, which I was very thankful to see. But basically, when you look at it, the titles, a lot of them are sales and marketing and communications roles, right? So I think that's pretty obvious that sales, marketing, communications roles, I think 5 of the 25 are sales, marketing, or communications roles, the fastest growing, which says everything to me. But the interesting thing is, if you look at those roles, if you look at the what's in those roles, they're really just they're new titles, new combinations of tasks that are under new titles, but the tasks themselves are the same. And it's interesting because I see this happening in businesses and the clients that we deal with all the time, where the jobs that are getting divvied up are different now, but the jobs themselves are the same. And I'll give you an interesting one. There's this whole revenue ops or revenue operations, right? Which is a classic marketing role, right? Dynamic pricing and figuring out what your pricing should be and how do you get the right price to the right person and all those kinds of things. That's now becoming more of a marketing or sales sort of combination role, like a VP of sales. Now you have a VP of revenue operations or a manager or a director of revenue operations. That kind of thing is getting all sorts of combos to it. Now, put that aside for the moment. And then also the news item that UPS at the end of last year, among others, Etsy is another one, have decided to disband the role of the CMO. And they've said basically they're letting their CMO go for various reasons. And the companies that are letting this go, some of it's performance based, some of it's whatever base, but basically they're not replacing them. They're divvying up those jobs into other parts of the organization. And I just want to say that if you look at those 2 things and you look at specifically at the CMO one, it becomes it's an interesting thing to think, because the knee-jerk reaction is to say marketing's becoming less important, right? Because as these roles start to get, the revenue operations goes into sales, and this piece of marketing goes into influencer, and it's sort of the marketing feels like it's getting dissolved into the other parts of the organization. And the CMO job is just, this has been a classic argument that's gone on for the last 10 years. Is it too big for one person or 2 people? Or, it doesn't need to be, those tasks need to be dissolved into a chief digital officer and a chief experience officer and all these things. What's interesting to me is that I think, on the contrary, all of these are signs that marketing is becoming more important and more strategic in business. And going all the way back to our Peter Drucker when he said innovation and marketing are the only two profitable functions in business. Everything else is a cost. This to me is sort of the living embodiment of that, which is it's not about the CMO title. It's not about your title. It is about how we as marketers start to assume all of these different roles that are evolving and construct our teams and ourselves, by the way, to handle all of these things. And so what I don't want people to do is get disheartened to say that, oh, I'm a marketer and I'm becoming less important in the business because the CMO is going away and I don't have a career path, or these things are getting moved into revenue operations or influencer marketing or those kinds of things. No, rather it's figure out the way that the right combination, the new combination of tasks and skills and things that you need to do work. And your title, your role will change. It absolutely will change. But leader of marketing, and I'll just use UPS as an example because the role that they did create is chief strategy officer, who handles what? Marketing, sales, revenue operations, and customer experience. And so, in other words, they created a bigger job than the CMO for the replacement there. And that's my commentary.
No, I like your take on that. That's a very positive take. And it reminds me, I was on a podcast earlier this week where basically the question was, what's the most important place that content marketing can have an impact? And mine was I basically said human resources. It's not even in marketing.
That's right.
The most important marketers that you have are your employees.
That's exactly right.
You need some kind of training process.
Is that ever more? That's so important these days, is that marketing is becoming a manager of content creators, right?
Yeah.
Marketing literally is becoming a media operation where our job is to harness the content creators in our organization to be able to create value. And it's just that change, that fundamental change in function is something I believe so heartily in. And damn it, if somebody will just hire me to figure that out for them, that would be really awesome.
That's what I was telling this person who was in HR, because we were talking about marketing. I said, you should be in the marketing meetings. Like,
that's right.
You need to talk to the chief marketing officer or the director of sales and marketing, and you need to be in these content creation meetings because it's all about what you do.
Yep.
Like, do you not know this?
Yep.
And the answer was no, they did not know.
They did not know that.
And I don't know if that's going to change, but I got on my stool and I did my thing.
There we go.
My content marketing thing. So what do you got going on?
I got, I'm dealing with, the audience doesn't need to know this. I have a doctor's appointment later today. It's all good. It's all fine, but it's just an annoying,
a little bit under the weather.
It's an annoying thing that I got to go deal with. So I got that going on. And then, I got a lot of content to create in the next couple of weeks here, on stuff, and just working, work. Scotch. Yeah, that's what I got. How about you?
Well, as I told you before, I've been brideless for a week.
Yes, that's true.
Right after we record this, I'm headed to the airport to pick her up. She had a great vacation with her girlfriends, and I guess the weather was beautiful in Mexico, and now I get her back. So
that's
lovely. I'm very excited about that. So I do miss her indeed. So
you're a lucky
so
man.
So we get to spend some time together. So that's good. And I'm not going to do any work tomorrow.
Oh, excellent. I love that. I love that even more. All right. Well, that is, so he's going to be off. I'm going to be working my ass off. But for you're going to be doing whatever it is you do on a Friday. And we will see you next week, because until we see you next week with all of our new formatting and good and pivot goodness, why don't you go check us out on YouTube, go subscribe, do all the things on YouTube and check us out on the video. And until we see you next week, remember, everybody, it is your story to tell. Tell it well. See you next week on This Old Marketing.